welcome to a Nerdy Show film review. I'm Cap.
I'm Doug.
And today we're talking about Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice. And it's spoiler-free, up to a point, and when that point comes, we will let you know. So there won't be any problems. You can watch this, you can
Stop it, then go see the movie.
Yeah, get our opinion of the film, whatever you want to do. But basically, we're going to go in soft, and then we're going to go in hard. So, yeah. So let's cut right to the chase. Here's our opinions on the film going into it. We had great concerns, grave concerns. Man of Steel was a tremendous letdown for me. I thought it was just a joyless, kind of awful movie with really poor characterization. And
it didn't feel like a Superman movie to me.
No, it was truly lacking.
Not my flavor of Superman, I guess.
Yeah, and then this movie was announced, and then it would only not only have a brand new Batman, but also Wonder Woman and Doomsday and Lex Luthor
and Aquaman and the Flash
and Cyborg.
Yeah,
and even more than that, it turns out.
Yeah,
and yet it actually worked. It actually was an enjoyable film. It was not a great film, but it was an entertaining film that I did not mind watching, and if I'd paid money for it, I wouldn't have felt ripped off.
Yeah, I would. If I paid money for it, I wouldn't have felt ripped off.
We saw a press screening.
Yeah.
We did not
Full
pirate
disclosure
it. Yeah,
here. Yeah,
it was a press screening.
I didn't. I wouldn't have felt ripped off, but I would have. I'll put it to you this way: every problem that I have with the movie, is really a problem with the way movies are made today. The movie didn't do anything wrong per se. I mean, actors did a great job. I think Ben Affleck in particular, people were shitting on Ben Affleck so hard before this movie came out, and I was like, I don't think he's got a chance. You can go back and listen to an episode where I was saying, I think he can do it.
Yeah,
I think he can do it,
and he did.
And he did. He totally did. Ben Affleck is a good Batman, and everyone else fulfilled their role the way they should have.
Apology accepted, Ben.
Yeah. What do you mean apology?
Daredevil. Which was miserable for many reasons, not exclusively him.
He was not the problem with Daredevil. Their visual effects were great. The cinematographer,
they were.
I got to look up the cinematographer. The cinematographer knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, no, I mean, and even Zack Snyder, whose work I have liked at times, and who I was getting increasingly disinterested in, based on not just his directing style, but also the words that were coming out of his mouth, which I didn't much care for. He did a good job. And lots of the Snyderisms that people have problems with were very well in check. Like, there was some slow motion stuff.
There was a lot of slow motion, but it wasn't
gaudy.
Yeah, no.
And even, in the past, there's a time and a place for it.
Yeah.
And he's good at both doing the place where there's a time and a place for it, and then also everywhere there probably shouldn't be. But in this, completely in check. And it did, unlike Man of Steel, it actually looked good. It was a good looking film.
Yeah, well, I think that's because it was mostly a Batman film.
I think it was because it was out from underneath the shadow cast by Chris Nolan's Batman movies. It had more of a chance to do its own thing, because you'll remember that Man of Steel was pretty heavily co-produced, because Warner Brothers was like, we gotta capture that Batman thing, so we're gonna make this grimdark Superman, and
I guess that's the thing. Yeah. When they were trying to copy a grimdark Batman and translate that into a Superman film, it didn't quite feel right for me. But now that they've kept that exact same tone and now inserted Batman into it, I'm like, oh, that makes sense, because it's Batman.
But it's not the exact same tone. It's a bit different. It's a bit better.
I would say the tone and the way they film it and the colors that were used, the palette of the film is pretty much the exact same. And that was my problem with a Superman movie. If it's a Superman movie, why doesn't it have any color?
No, and I agree. But whereas the previous film was really desaturated, this one's only guilty of being just darker hued. But not like to the point where you're tweaking every single shot just to make it have this funky bleached out look to it.
I think we see the sun only one time in this film.
Well, aesthetics aside, you're not here for the art direction.
Right? No, let's get to the real meat of it.
You want to know how all these pieces fit together.
Yeah. On a scale of 1 to 10, what would you give it?
I would give it a 5 out of 10.
I'd give it a solid 5.
Yeah, and I think that's this. You're either gonna probably be indifferent to it, or you're gonna really, really love it. There's some other folks in the Nerdy Show Network who've also seen it already. They love it. Hardcore love it.
And unlike other recent films where people like hardcore loved it, and I'm just like, I do not understand. If you love this film, I get it, and that's fine. I don't have a problem.
We got Batman and Superman on screen together in a major motion picture for the first time ever, and it didn't suck.
Yeah.
Like, that's the fact. It did not suck.
Yeah. It's like all the action you would want, like the fighting and the confrontation, it delivers. It does everything that it set out to do.
Now, let's talk about the plot, because they've been a little vague on the plot. And the plot itself was actually a little vague throughout. If you start asking yourself after seeing this movie, what exactly were the motivations of Lex Luthor during this? Okay, well, he wants to kill Superman.
That's what Lex Luthor always
That's what Lex Luthor wants to do. Yeah. Okay. And then you realize, wait a minute. Wait a goddamn minute. The only reason that I know anybody's motivations is purely based on my assumptions as to what I've absorbed from them about those characters as pop culture icons.
Right.
These are new and unique portrayals of the characters,
right.
And yet it's still leaning on our preconceived notions of what those characters are.
Yeah, this movie, you know what? I just found the perfect way for me to describe how I feel about this movie.
Let it rip.
This movie, to me, not for everybody, this is not true for everybody, but for me, this movie is the equivalent of me going to Dagobah and Yoda, like, training me to be a Jedi or a great filmmaker, and then I say, oh, I feel something. What's in that cave? And he says, only what you take with you. And then you go into the cave, and then just a movie starts, and it's Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. And then afterwards, I walk out, and I know something more about myself and my place in the world. And this movie, if you took somebody from another culture who doesn't understand, or who never heard of Batman or Superman, or maybe even if they've heard of Batman or Superman, but they didn't know that much about DC comic villains or histories or monsters or anything, and you sit them down and they watch this movie, they're not have any idea what's happening. It's the same criticism for another Zack Snyder film, The Watchmen. You know, it's like, if you didn't read the comics, I know people who didn't read the comics, they went into that movie and they said, I have no idea what I'm looking at. What happened? Please explain this film to me. And it's kind of the same. I mean,
and it's not just that it leans on Man of Steel. No, it actually doesn't lean on it half as much as you'd think.
No, not really. It's I think you could not see Man of Steel and see this, and it would still make just as much sense. And so, I mean, I sound like I'm really shitting on it, but it's not. The film still works. There's just a lot of things that don't work if you don't know anything about Superman or Lex Luthor or Batman, or how they're... Because you go into this movie as a fan and you know the dynamics of these characters, it makes sense.
Yeah.
But if you're, you know, Joe Schmo, and you're living in, I was gonna say Kansas, but Superman's from Kansas, so everyone's probably heard of Superman. But if you're from somewhere where you don't know Superman that well, you're not gonna really understand why everything is happening the way it's happening. Why are these people acting this way around each other? There were reveals that were supposed to be big reveals that weren't reveals at all, because we knew who these people were. So I guess this movie, people might complain that movies aren't made for fans. This movie was made for fans. And I think it hits
exclusively to a fault. Perhaps.
To a fault, a little, but it still worked because of it. If the same way Watchmen worked. If you were a fan of the comics, you understand what was happening.
Yeah, and it was neat. There was some neat stuff that happened. Meanwhile, I'm still asking questions about why Lex Luthor was doing pretty much everything he was doing on screen the entire time.
Yeah, when we walked out of the theater after the movie was over, I looked at Cap and I was like, Cap, who is Lex Luthor? And we were, you kind of looked at me like, what? And I'm just like, well, I know who he is in the comics. I know who he is in the cartoon. I know who he is in these other films. I have no idea who Lex Luthor is supposed to be. Why is he important? Why is he rich? What does his company do other than plot to kill Superman?
I mean, that's all you need to know is that he's an industrialist, right? That glosses over so much.
Yes, he is. Or is he a software developer?
He does everything. He's LexCorp. LexCorp, a multinational.
But he's really young. How did he get to be ahead of LexCorp?
Because he suggests early on that he is a genius, and therefore you assume he's a genius.
But a genius in what?
Everything.
Apparently, alien technology. apparently in recognizing how to.
I mean, the thing is,
creating plans to defeat
these
aliens.
points you're making are not wrong, but it's also like we know. Here's a couple other things we know. We know there's a longer cut of the film. We know there's a rated R cut of the film. And
a longer cut of the film is not the film that's out in theaters.
No,
right
it's
now.
not, and it was long enough. Thank you very much. Yeah, it was definitely long enough, and the pacing was actually pretty okay, aside from
considering how long it was.
Yeah, and many things were given a good amount of time.
If you want, that's the thing. It's like, oh well, we didn't have time to put in the explanation of the backstory of these characters. Well, I would imagine that the backstory of the motivation for your villain is really important. I could tell you several places where you could cut at least 5 minutes. I mean, and that's the thing. These 5-minute things that I'm talking about might be a little spoiler, so I won't say, but there's sequences in this movie that are fun to watch, and they're action packed, and they have Easter eggs and all that fun stuff. But ultimately, it's like, okay, when are we getting back to the movie? Someone's about to die. We gotta get back to this thing. You know, like there's a big thing about to happen. Why are we wasting time with this?
And there are some moments that are absolutely, like, that could actually be removed from the film completely, that pertain to the shared universe, forcing the cinematic crossover to happen a little too early for Warner Brothers. They just, you could cut them right out and you'd never know, but they're in there anyway. And they come in many cases as dream sequences that aren't all necessarily dream sequences, and they're very well done. They're all really cool, but they're also
don't serve a purpose.
They don't serve a purpose. They're confusing to the general populace. I know what they mean. They're full of something that an astute comics reader would know what they mean.
But also, like, if you're trying to get something across, okay, Superman has to go through some stuff, and we're treated to not even a dream sequence. It's more of a hallucination. And I'm just thinking there wasn't a better way they could convey this to the audience. Like, we have to have something, we have to witness something that we know is not real. Like, we're looking at something happening and we're, okay, this is a dream or hallucination. And character development happens during this scene, which is fine. I like character development, but you couldn't do this in reality. Like, it had to be fictitious, therefore it didn't happen, therefore it isn't real. I don't know.
And Superman himself could, even having a whole film, he was very underdeveloped in that film. And he's still extremely underdeveloped. Superman was in less than 25% of this movie. It was mostly Batman.
Yeah, it's funny. I would equate it to Batman Returns, the second Tim Burton one, where Batman is pretty much not in that movie. Like, he's in it maybe 25%, maybe less actually for Batman Returns. And I feel the same way about Superman. But, you know, I mean, it's when he's there, he does do cool stuff.
Yeah.
And
but it's a shame because clearly the filmmakers, they have the same problem that a lot of the comics authors have, is that they don't know what to do with the character.
Yeah.
Which is completely understandable. He's a very challenging character in the 21st century. Very challenging.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. Like, they're talking about the heroism of Superman. All I've seen in this cinematic film continuity is Superman leading to, like, mass destruction of the world, basically. And then I'm asked to believe that he's heralded by most people as a hero. And they give fleeting, non-committal examples, just suggestions, really, that he's done. Imagine Superman's day-to-day heroics. Imagine that the Daily Planet, as they said in the film, could write a puff piece about Superman saving a cat out of a tree.
Right.
Imagine that that's possible. Imagine that everything you know about Superman is probably true. And the film, very indirectly, asks you to assume all that. And believe that Superman is a good character, when on screen, all you have seen is basically the same stuff that Lex Luthor and Batman are pissed about.
Right.
And in a way, the film kind of makes fun of, or not makes fun of, but really references everyone's criticism of the first movie as being, you know, disaster porn and all these people were killed and everything. And they're like, oh yeah, people died. And I'm like, okay, so you're acknowledging that disaster porn happened. But then you're also telling me that most people love Superman. I don't see it.
Yeah. Well, there was people who hated him too. There were crowds that hated him.
But they erected a monument to him as a memorial for everyone in Metropolis who died.
And the fact that monument memorial is like maybe 100 yards away from where the crashed Kryptonian ship was is a little bit of bad taste. It's like a lot of people died there, and they build the memorial like.
You want to talk about proximity? How about Metropolis and Gotham being literally across the bay from each other?
Like, you can stand in Metropolis
and
on a rainy night
and see the bat signal.
See the bat signal.
No joke, guys.
And
no joke.
That was another. Okay, well, do we want to go into somewhat
I don't feel that was a spoiler.
It's not a spoiler, but do we want? But I like. Oh, there's stuff to dive in there.
Here, the general gist of the film, for those of you who are about to tune out on account of spoilers, is that there are some really fun moments to it. There's some cool stuff.
It.
Wonder Woman is great. People cheered when she hit the screen because they eased into her being a figure within the narrative of the film, and then when she showed up, you knew just enough about her to think, wow, this is going to be awesome,
but
and it was.
Only because you know who Wonder Woman is outside of this movie. If you don't know who Wonder Woman is, she shows up and you go, what the fuck? Who is this? What is she doing here?
You wouldn't go, who is this?
Why is she there? I don't know. They never say her name. She is the nameless woman who shows up.
She is 100% nameless, you're right. But they did a lot with very little. Insofar as the assumptions that you could pull from
with a little. They did a little with a little, and it was enough to satiate fans. The reaction Wonder Woman got when she showed up on screen warmed my heart, because it shows that we want a Wonder Woman movie. We want a full-length Wonder Woman movie, and it's been overdue for so long.
The Warner Brothers
people
was wrong.
See her peek out from under a thing, and people lose their shit because they've been wanting it for so long. And we don't know how to handle her, so we'll handle her by putting her in the movie without giving her a name or a purpose or a reason for being there, or for any emotional reason, and she's there.
Yeah.
That's all I can say about her. She's there.
And I'll also just go ahead and say, do not get your hopes up for those other heroes we mentioned, because they are not really in this movie.
No.
Like, the fact that there's pop figures of all of them, oh boy, you're not going to see those guys on screen for years.
Yeah.
I mean, you saw them on screen, but it won't matter. Anyway,
yeah,
here's the spoiler wall.
That's the spoiler-free part.
Here we are.
Let's spoilers from here on out, because I don't know how else to talk about this movie, about how I feel, because a lot of the problems I have with it are spoiler
It's complicated.
related.
Well, they actually, I mean, the trailers did a good job of misdirecting quite a bit.
Yeah.
You know, like, I didn't know what it was about. Let's talk about an amazing sequence in the film, Batman's Dark Side Apocalypse dream sequence. Big Omega symbol burned to the ground, parademons everywhere, Batman in a desert costume, Superman with like a bunch of like troops dedicated to him. Really amazing alternate universe sequence.
A cool idea for a movie. I would see a whole movie set in that storyline, in that little universe.
And you might. Something like it could happen, because they're obviously, they want, you know, much like how Marvel teases Thanos, but even in
they even tease World War Hulk, or rather, Planet Hulk.
Yeah. I mean, but anyway, so like much like that, but actually to a more extreme degree, we have this Darkseid sequence, which is one of the coolest sequences I've seen in a superhero film in a long time.
Definitely in a DC movie.
Yeah, Jesus Christ. It stands out. Like, it stands out. It's crazy. But it also has nothing to do with this movie.
Pretty much, yeah.
It's like a weird joke.
Yeah, it's a dream. Now, I want to know, Batman hasn't met Superman when he has this dream. And he has this dream, and Superman, you've seen it in the trailers, like Superman goes down the hallway where the troops are kneeling by him, and he walks up to him and he takes his mask off and he looks at him. And in Bruce Wayne's dream, Superman is portrayed by Clark Kent. How does he know what he looks like? Did he... I know that for the purposes of the movie, they have to keep Superman, but why didn't he
This dream is a straight up prophecy. It has too much meaning.
That's what I'm saying. Like, how come? So the only logical conclusion is that this isn't a dream, and it's actually a literal prophecy. He is seeing the future,
or a version of it,
or a possible future, and how and why?
Well,
I don't know.
Yeah, and then
he wakes up from that dream.
Yeah,
and it turns out, that's another moment. I guess that's a cameo of the Flash. Is that supposed to be the Flash?
There's a guy who comes through in a suit.
A portal.
It is the Flash.
A portal rips open, and a guy comes halfway through, and it looks like the Flash, but it's kind of hard to tell because it's crazy portal.
Well, and he's wearing like in the comics, Flash can just run through dimensions. You know, on a treadmill. You don't want to know about that. But But in this version, I guess he has to wear some kind of protective garment to do this chronal dimensional travel thing that he's doing. He's like, oh shit, I came back too early. and he said like,
he said the worst thing you could possibly say if you're going back in time to warn somebody of something, which is absolutely nothing.
Yeah,
he's like, you gotta save the world. It's all gonna happen. You were right about this vague thing, the thing that you think you're right about. I'm not gonna say what, but
Right.
Lois is important, and just do the right thing when the time comes. Bye. And it's like, okay, then Bruce Wayne wakes up from that. So it was like dream within a dream, or it really happened and he got knocked out and we didn't see it. This is the thing where I'm talking about vagary. Like it doesn't make a lot of sense.
Here's why I think I like this movie as much as I did. Because for all of its failings, for all of the dumb shit that happened, the way that it carelessly wove storylines together with
It's like a comic book.
Exactly. assuming that the audience already knows the characters and everything, it had the same carefree attitude that a well-done DC crossover comic book would actually have.
Yeah, that's true.
Whereas it's a failure as a film in that regard because it's gonna absolutely alienate people, though they might not care, honestly.
Most people who see this movie won't care.
But it was a lot of fun because I knew that it worked, which goes back to the whole, like, you know, maybe really taking fans into consideration but to the detriment of the movie for general audiences.
I've said this about other films, but I really feel like this one might be the new crown champion of most expensive fan film ever made. Because it was made specifically for fans. It was meant to titillate you and get you all excited for the new upcoming films. And all these little references that only you will understand, and the dumb people who go see this movie and they don't know comics, they won't get it, but you'll get it, and you'll feel good about yourself. And,
that seems needlessly conflict oriented, Doug.
I feel like although it was an entertaining ride, it wasn't a movie. It was a comic book at 24 frames per second, and to some people that sounds amazing and perfect. But
it was
for me,
it was very enjoyable. What I couldn't abide by was where it really let the characters down.
Yes.
You know, like here's Lex Luthor. When I saw the trailers, lots of people were like, man, I don't think he's a good Lex Luthor. But when I saw that scene of him laying like, oh man, like I'm so goofy and weird, I'm a weird goofy Lex. And like Clark Kent and Bruce Wayne, man, you guys should hang out don't pick a fight with that guy. And I was like, no, I like him. I think that's good. And you know what? He let me down.
I think that kooky version of Lex can work.
They took it too far. Like I thought that one scene, I thought it was good, and then the rest of the film,
by the end,
he was so much weirder than that scene most of the time. What this Lex Luthor was, he wasn't. I would love to see a Lex Luthor in film that has the gravitas of, say, like Lex Luthor from the animated series, or really well written comic book Lex Luthor, who you can feel like even if he is a little goofy, he is the smartest man in the room all the time, and he always has something going, and his goals as a human being are very vain and egotistical, but also lofty, and he believes that he has mankind's best interest at heart. This was an even crazier version in some ways of Gene Hackman's portrayal of Lex Luthor in the original Superman films.
I would say at least Gene Hackman's goal was clear. I don't know what Lex Luthor wanted. He says a couple things, like he says what his goal is. He's like, oh, I want to make sure that Superman gets his hands bloody and the world sees that he's not this perfect hero. And that's all he really says.
I think they cut out some daddy issues they probably imbued him with. There's a lot of crying about your family in this movie.
All right.
And that's my biggest, the worst fucking Batman scene ever in film, maybe? I don't know, because you can almost excuse some Schumacher stuff because it's so bonkers. But is Batman, having been Batman for 20 years, going through hell, the clear implications that like he's experienced Jason Todd's death even.
But if you don't know the comics, you don't know what the fuck that means.
Right.
It's just another little nod.
It's really vague.
But camera pans to the left for a hint.
That he's confronting Superman. He's never really met the guy before. He's never had a full-blown conversation with him. Just that little intimidation game of, hey, you stop doing this and do you bleed? And then he starts crying about his fucking parents, unprompted. Just like, my parents died and you're Superman. I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna tour you around the room. Like, brings it up for no
that
reason.
part. I was trying to think what part you're talking about. Yeah, okay.
He brings up his dead parents for no reason. No one was asking. Get over it, you big fucking baby. You've been Batman for 20 years, and I believed it most of the time, up until then.
If Batman got over his dead parents, would he still be Batman?
Yes, goddammit. He has so much more important things to do.
Now, but here's the thing. Now, all that aside, you're right. No one prompted him to talk about his parents. The whole movie, he's like, I'm going to do one thing and one thing only, and that's save the planet from this freaky alien who could kill us all.
And his motivations are good, and they do a great job setting it up, too.
It made sense. Like Lex Luthor didn't make any sense. Superman, I was a little confused by why he was doing certain things, but whatever. I understood kind of what his core character was. I kind of got it. And Batman, every scene he was in, he was just like reaffirming where he stood on things. I understood philosophically where he was coming from. I knew about his past because they actually showed his past. Like, I didn't just leave it up to guesswork, which I actually criticized the movie at first. Like, do we have to really see, Bruce Wayne's dead parents again? Do we really have to go through that origin story all over again?
The pearls are going to explode and they're going to fall in the gutter. Always pearl. I was like, I thought they weren't going to do it at first. Then I was like, show me pearls.
Of course
there's the pearl shot.
But having that in the movie,
nothing Martha Wayne loves more than a pearl necklace. Tell you what.
But having that in the movie, even though we've seen it a million times, gives you context for where he's coming from. Like, the thing that I'm criticizing the movie for not doing is what I hoped it had done before I saw it. I was like, please don't show me that crap I already know. But no, you need to. It's a movie. It's not a comic book.
It was important.
Need to see it.
They might not have needed to show it a second time.
A second flashback, thinking back to it,
of the same shots,
same shots, seeing it again, literally. But you're right. Other than the movie opens with his parents dying and their funeral. The movie's a big bummer, right? It's Zack Snyder presents Superman. It's a big bummer. So Zack Snyder presents Batman. You know it's going to be a big bummer. The movie opens by intersplicing 3 scenes: the destruction of Metropolis, 9/11 style, which we already know is a huge bummer. We've already seen it. Tom and Martha being shot, on the street like animals, thereby creating.
By the way, Robert didn't even come away with anything. Joe Chill, who presumably that was, like, he just like, yo, gun, and you're like, whoa, hey, bro, and then he's like, oh, killed you. I'm really freaked out by how I killed you. Run away.
Yeah, it didn't.
I don't even.
But whatever. We know the story, and they cut around a lot. So maybe he did grab a wallet or something.
They weren't even in Crime Alley. They were in front of the movie theater. Whatever.
And then so those 2 scenes also interspliced with the funeral. So we're experiencing the funeral and the mourning of these people while we're watching them die, while we're watching Metropolis collapse on itself, while we're watching Bruce Wayne through the rubble seeing people die, and I'm like, we're 5 minutes in. This is a Superman movie? Like, where's,
But no, it's not. It's not at all. It was originally slated as the sequel to the Superman film, but it is clearly not and hasn't been for a long time.
It's a big, fat bummer for most of the movie, because it's before we went to see the movie, I was referencing the Lego Batman song, the darkness all surrounding me, and no parents. Like, that is a lot of what this movie is, like, brooding
and I was still 100% down with it. Like, you can't, we wanted a dark Batman, probably. Batman's best when he's dark.
I don't want a funny Batman. Yeah, I want a dark Batman. And that's fine. Right. That's why I'm saying. This worked as a Batman movie, but it didn't work as a Superman.
But then they took it too far, crying about his parents.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Crying about his parents, that shatters all the progress they made throughout the entire movie, where it's like, I'm focused on Superman. He's the biggest threat to this planet.
Batman. I'm pragmatic. I know what my goals are clear.
And he's like, I'm going to certain death. And Alfred's like, dude, this is suicide. Master Bruce, this is suicide. If you do this, you're probably going to die. You can't take down Superman. And he's like, if there's only a chance that I can do it, I have to do it. And if it means I'm dying, then I'm going to do it. Yeah. And then he proceeds to bitch slap Superman like nothing. Like it was almost too easy for a lot of it. And then you're like, all right, here it comes. He's going to do the killing thing, but you know he's not going to kill Superman because they have 8 more movies to make. And instead of being like, you think you come to this planet and you can just tell us what to do? I'm not going to let you. Instead, he's like, my mom and dad, and people suck.
And leading up to that, Superman's goals were really clear. He needed to save his mom. She was caught in a situation that he needed help with.
Lex Luthor, because we're in spoiler territory.
We are.
Lex Luthor finds out who Superman is, kidnaps Lois, kidnaps his mom, and is going to kill them both. And he's just like, this is where the logic starts to break down. So far, it makes sense. He says, I want you to go fight Batman. and bring me his head. And if you bring me Batman's head, I'm going to let your mom
And what was
go.
actually kind of clever about the whole thing is that he reveals, very subtly I might add, that he's actually been manipulating Batman for a long time, just to position him as an adversary for Superman. Lex Luthor has actually been setting up this fight forever because...
Which makes no sense.
Well, here's the thing. They don't go into it, but in the film, they never show you this happen, but I think this is actually like a moment where it's okay. Mm-hmm. Lex Luthor is actually so smart that without showing it on screen, he figured out who Batman and Superman were. I believe that. I think that's valid.
I believe that he could figure it out. But what I don't believe is if you know who Batman and Superman are, you're going to waste 2 years setting them up to fight each other. It didn't make any sense. Lex Luthor's plot, which, again, I'm not even really sure what his goal was. Like, so he says to Superman, you're going to go down there.
It's not to protect humanity, because someone who's going to protect humanity is not going to, like, create a freak of nature willy-nilly that is as powerful as Doomsday.
But he tells Superman to his face, I will let your mom go if you bring me Batman's head. Kill him, bring the head, I will let your mom go.
Right.
And he's assuming he's not going to go through with it because he's the goody two-shoes. So it's kind of like Lex Luthor kind of acted more like the Joker. If you criticize the Joker in the Christopher Nolan movies for having a plan that was too complicated and it never would have worked because there's so many variables, double that, and that's Lex Luthor's plan. It made no sense. It's like the movie. I just because I have to get this out. I really want you to understand. You've got some
feelings, Doug. You've been ranting hard. You've been pistons firing
because the movie deserved to be better. The hard work that went into this, you can see it. You can see there's passion in the people who made this movie, and it should have been even better. And I know for a lot of people, they're like, "This movie's fucking awesome." Why is Doug being a stick in the mud? And I'm telling you, the movie's okay, but where it fails was something that could have easily worked if there was just this much more effort put into it. Lex Luthor's plan. Apparently, in the very beginning, he sets up this scheme where Lois is going to be held at gunpoint, and it's out in North Africa.
This is downright dumb as shit, and the movie just kind of hopes that you'll forget about it.
Yeah, but I didn't forget because the whole movie hinges around it.
Yeah.
So the setup is Lois is in like some sort of terrorist compound talking to a general in North Africa, and they discover that there's a CIA guy pretending to be Lois's cameraman. So they pull out all guns, and they're gonna be like, "I'm gonna shoot Lois Lane," and I'm like, "Let me guess, Superman will show up," and of course he does. But just before Superman shows up, these other mercenaries who are hired by Luthor, you don't know this at the time, but they're hired by Luthor, just shoot everyone in the compound, like all the other terrorists. Just all terrorists are dead except for the last guy who's got a gun to Lois's head. Then they leave. Seconds after their cars pull away from the gate, Superman lands, doesn't see them leaving, and I guess he doesn't care because he's there to find Lois, saves Lois, gets her back to Metropolis, I'm guessing, and then suddenly the whole world says, Superman killed like 30 terrorists somewhere in North Africa in the desert. He needs to answer for his crime.
And there was a woman who was testifying who was, I was really confused about it. At first I thought, well, she must be testifying about Metropolis, because otherwise what's she doing in America
she was saying, like,
testifying?
He came down and there were so many dead people. I couldn't tell if she was lying or if she just misunderstood what she saw when Superman came in.
And then I thought, geez, is she talking about that scene in Africa that just happened?
Yeah.
And I couldn't piece it together.
Yeah.
And she may have been. And if she was, then they need to establish it wasn't just a terrorist compound.
That she was an innocent person hiding.
It was a village with like people.
Right.
Which they didn't.
They totally didn't. This was a terrorist compound. Like they literally black bagged them and then put them in and took their hood off if it's whatever. So anyway, the world is starting, they want to put Superman like on trial, have a tribunal where they want him to come to Congress and come before the government and explain his actions, because they want to make sure if this really happened or is he actually a good guy. There's like this, the whole country's divided on whether Superman is our savior or he's out of control. And people think that he killed these terrorists. Well, one, they're terrorists, so I'm pretty sure America would be like, hell yeah, Superman killed terrorists. And saved the girl, and all this other stuff. But they don't, and they want to know if he actually murdered these people or not.
Yeah.
Why do they think Superman murdered these people?
Yeah, it's funny because they were all shot with bullets.
Yeah, they were all torn up with bullets. And they have an eyewitness of Lois being there So the eyewitness of this random person who either was for Superman or not for Superman, I don't know.
And she has a bullet, and the bullet cannot be identified by Pentagon ballistics.
Yeah.
And then they find out it can't be identified because it's an experimental thing made by LexCorp. So if it's made by LexCorp and it was used to frame Superman because it's a bullet. Wait, whoa, what?
Yeah, the logic breaks down. Why does Lex Luthor plan this elaborate plan to shoot people and say Superman killed these dead people with the bullet holes in them, and then the bullets that are in the bodies are made by LexCorp and no one else? They're like a weird freaky design that you would not mistake for anything. And that's part one of his plan, which doesn't. Well, I guess then the plan was this is where it doesn't make sense, because then the plan is it frames him, then they're going to put him on trial. So then Superman goes to Congress to speak on his own behalf and tell the real story of what really happened, how he's actually a good guy. But Lex Luthor plants a suicide bomber in Congress, and then that guy kills himself, and it blows up everybody, and Superman's the only survivor, of course, standing there in the flames like, oh, I'm such an idiot. And, like, he gets it. Like, he realizes there was a mistake, and he realizes this was all a trap. Then Lex says, I want the world to know that you have blood on your hands. You just set up this thing that where all these people died because of Superman.
In Washington, D.C., in the Capitol building, no less.
Senators and governors, all these people are dead.
Because of Superman.
Yeah.
Inadvertently, but no one's gonna, like... I mean...
But that's not good enough. Now he's gonna kidnap his mom and his girlfriend and say, go kill Batman. And when you kill Batman, then the world will hate you.
Well, but really... But then it's also, he's at the same time, he's like, but secretly, I've set up Batman to be on your ass, like getting materials to kill you.
Why?
Because here's where I think there's actually some kind of like, there's a glimmer of a good plan in there, which is that Lex thinks, shit, I am not equipped to kill Superman. But this
Except he thinks he is.
Hold the fuck on, Doug. Hold the fuck on.
Go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
I get to rant too, sir.
Yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead.
But that bat crazy over across the bay in Gotham.
Right.
Man, he's clearly a brilliant tactician. So I'm going to get him to kill Superman for me. That would be a great plan. I'm going to stem his vendetta.
Yep.
I'm going to make sure he realizes Superman's the biggest threat to his city, his world, his everything. And I'm going to give him the tools to do it. And he's going to think it was his idea.
Right.
And that is a good plan. That is what happened.
No, it's
except
not.
that it didn't happen.
No,
because it goes wrong immediately. And what's even dumber is that Superman handles it really poorly simply for the benefit of the movie-going audience to see the two of them fight, because he doesn't make any valiant attempt whatsoever under those circumstances to actually get Batman's help, which is what he was supposed to be trying to do.
So, Lex plans the whole thing with Congress and everything else. Meanwhile, this other seemingly unrelated plan, but... I guess it's all part of the same plan, is he has someone who found a big chunk of kryptonite in the ocean, and they're going to import it to America, and Lex is going to make a weapon out of it so that he could potentially kill Superman if the need were to arise. Well, we all know different because we've all read a comic in our lives. Then the government tells Lex, the senator tells Lex, no, we're not going to let you import this thing that might kill Superman. And suddenly his whole plan's out of whack, where he's like, Senator, I think that you're soft on intergalactic crime, and you're just whatever. And it's like, dude, did your whole plan really depend on getting this rock through customs? The brilliant tactician, the brilliant guy, does he not have a lab overseas?
I mean, it's one of the many parts that doesn't make any sense
whatsoever. Does his money? No, he couldn't smuggle it. Does he have to bring it in legally on a ship?
And then
what happened to the black market?
Seemingly, he was also at that same point, he'd been leading Batman on with this he was looking for like the white Portuguese.
Yeah, the white Portuguese. Yeah.
And he didn't know what that meant or what it was. Turns out it's a boat. He's been leading
Lex's boat.
He's been leading Batman on with these clues to get him to the inevitable point of him stealing the kryptonite from him.
So Lex Luthor's logic is, okay, my plan is to use LexCorp bullets in dead terrorists and frame that to look like Superman did that. To put him on trial, to go in front of Congress, which I then plant a suicide bomber in the courtroom and then blow up everybody except Superman. While that's happening, I have a chunk of kryptonite that I'm trying to bring in through U.S. Customs because I want to do it legally for some reason. And if that gets denied, my plan is in trouble. Guess what? It gets denied. Now his plan is in trouble. But then somehow it gets fixed, I guess because the court or the senators blew up, so then I guess it comes in anyway. But then
he was also using a private military corporation to do it.
Right.
So hypothetically, it was on the down low.
It was illegal anyway,
Yeah.
but he's whatever. Then on top of that, he then says, I'm going to trick Batman into stealing this technology from me. Instead of the fact that I already know that Batman is Bruce Wayne, a guy who lost a lot during this battle with Superman, the battle of Superman versus Zod, why didn't he just approach him from the corporate standpoint and say, yo, Bruce, we're both billionaires, right? And we both develop technology. I don't know about you, but he does because he's Lex Luthor and he's smart. I don't know about you, Bruce, but I'm scared shitless by the idea of Superman taking over the world. And I think if you and I work together, we could create a plan, a fail-safe, where we could work together and stop Superman if this were to happen. And it would be all legit, and there'd be no evil things that you have to do. And you would make money if you did it.
But he is an insane person, as presented repeatedly. And not only is he's an insane person that also at some point gets knowledge of Darkseid. By the end of the
Somehow,
film.
So anyway, continuing on with Lex's plan and how it doesn't make sense. So I'm going to let Batman steal the kryptonite from me. And so he gives him this opportunity, presents it to him on a platter. Batman shows up to steal it, but doesn't steal it. Because guess who also lives in Metropolis? Superman. Oh, damn it. Batman didn't get it. I wanted him to get it, but he didn't get it.
And Clark Kent is like, up Perry's ass about, we got to cover this Bat vigilante. He's going too far. He's branding people. Oh yeah, and Batman, by the way, Batman kills people. Batman kills people like crazy in this movie.
Did he kill people?
Dude, yes.
He branded people and they went to jail and then they got killed.
And as the great detective, he should know that if he's branding people in such a way so that they're going to be clear marks when they go into the prison system and inevitably get killed.
True, yeah.
He's killing them.
Fair enough, yeah.
Also, the stuff with the grenades, it's like Batman Returns all over again. Like,
well, that guy pulled a pin on his own grenade and then he like pushed him and then he's like, oh shit, kaboom.
A Batman in any other continuity would have flung it through a skylight or something else.
True.
Like,
but whatever. That's small potatoes to me.
But so Clark Kent's like, yo, we got to do something about this Bat vigilante. Like,
and I remember thinking, like, okay, so Superman, he wants to do something about this Bat character, and Gotham is like super heavy into crime and everything else. Hold on, I hear a natural disaster. Go solve that. Takes 2 seconds. Okay, back to this. I got to do something about this Bat character. And I'm thinking, is this is it like across the country,
right?
Or is it like really far away?
Because it's supposed to be like New York and Chicago,
yeah,
like not direct analogs because they also exist.
But
in
you
DC,
can stand on the top. You could stand on one of the floors of the Daily Planet, look out the window, and see Gotham. Why hasn't Superman just walked over to Gotham sometime in the past 20 years and say, hey, this city needs my help, and just and clean it overnight?
And if it just hadn't, I mean, it was all for convenience. It was the convenience of the set pieces to not have to like worry about the distance and Batman flying in the Batwing all the time to like, it was all for convenience. It was all for convenience, but it makes no sense. You can't believe that they coexist like this. It's
Two
impossible.
Giant cities that also have superheroes that only care about things that happen in those cities.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand why before Zod showed up in Man of Steel, Superman wasn't like, I'm hearing about this Bat character across the way, and I think I'm going to go arrest him because I can, and he's breaking the law, and I'm Superman. Why didn't he just do that? And then, like, even in the film, he lands, so the scene where he's supposed to steal the kryptonite, Superman lands, rips the roof off the Batmobile, and it's just like, don't do it again. Like, Batman is dead. Don't you ever put on the suit. Don't go rescue people anymore. Batman is done. Give it up. And then he walks away. I'm like, why don't you haul his ass down to Metropolis, headquarters?
Yeah,
like
and if Gotham thinks he's a vigilante, then I'm sure that you could, book him. Yeah.
Yeah, it would be a huge scam, but he doesn't because it's convenient for the plot. Anyway, and also Batman knows that Lex Luthor put the rock on the boat and to bring it into America. He knows LexCorp's goons are going to pick it up and take it to LexCorp, but he puts a tracking device on the truck. And then later he's like, damn it got away. He goes back to the Batcave, looks on the computer, and it says, truck arriving at LexCorp. And he's like, Like, you knew that 20 minutes ago.
And then he breaks in like it weren't nothing.
Yeah, then he breaks into LexCorp and steals it anyway, like it was nothing. Whereas I'm thinking, you know what Batman in the comics would have done? He would have snuck on that boat in the dead of night and taken the rock and knocked out everybody with gas, and nobody would have been the wiser. Or just sunk the boat.
But hey, we got a cool car chase out of it.
I guess. It's
No, Doug. We did get a cool car chase out of it. All this film is about is whetting the visual appetite for seeing two titans go head to head in situations. As soon as you acknowledge the plot, it all falls apart.
But that's
as
the thing.
This overlong video has represented.
Overtly complicated. It's a house of cards.
We're well beyond time on this.
Yeah.
You realize that.
All right.
But this is it's just a testament.
This is a taste
to the fact that the film, though I had a good time watching it, it is 100% like Hollywood cheese, and there's plenty of flaws in the Avengers films, and I might even say this is way better, a better film to watch than Age of Ultron, but at the very least, those films do make a little bit more sense. There's a little bit more validation, and thanks to the fact that they didn't rush their character development. They had the opportunity, that way Loki can wander in to the Avengers and you don't have to over-explain him. He's there, he's doing his thing, and it all makes sense because you've had all those moments to have that backstory. It was like an Avengers film coming out of the ether. Mm-hmm. And to that effect, I suppose that was fine. That's exactly what they wanted to do.
That's what they wanted to do.
Except that it also was irreparably damaged by it. If you start to question the motivations of any character.
Yeah. Final questions then, because we won't have time because we're so all of that with the plan with Lex, whatever Lex is doing, he then gets access to the ship. He gets access to General Zod's body, puts it into some goop inside the ship, cuts his hand open. I don't know what he was trying to do, but I'm pretty sure that the plot was stolen from Superman 4: The Quest for Peace, where he wanted to make a super thing that had Lex's blood in it, like it had his DNA in it. But how come when you put Lex's blood mixed with Kryptonian blood of General Zod, you get Doomsday? Does that mean if Superman were to ever impregnate Lois Lane, it would make Doomsday? Or is Lex Luthor also a super genius with genetics and alien DNA, and he's using the ship technology to intentionally make a monster?
I think we're meant to assume the latter.
But if he can already do that, why did he need human DNA to make that happen?
Well, and yeah, it's very confusing because this Lex does not appear to have any investment in the human race, so he wasn't trying to make something that could be humanity's savior by being part human.
He made it a monster for no reason.
Yeah, he made an unkillable, uncontrollable monster.
For literally no reason.
For literally no reason.
Because the third act needed it.
But Doomsday looked really good. In spite of it being a big old CG fight, it looked really good. But hey, so the movie, it is a fun watch. It is a fun watch, and if you had pessimistic feelings about it, it's probably nowhere near as bad as you thought it was going to be, in spite of this extended rant on the many plot problems that it had.
It's a movie. It's just a movie, and it can still be enjoyable. So
because there's two kinds of movies in this world. There's art films and there's Hollywood blockbusters, really. Yeah. And there's things that fall in the middle, but yeah.
Yeah. You won't learn anything new, but you won't be bored.
Yeah, and you may in fact be entertained.
Yeah.
And that's not a crime. It's not a crime. So we got Batman and Superman fighting in a film, and it didn't outright suck. It was actually pretty all right. It was at least okay, if not good.
Let's keep the dialogue going, though.
Yeah. I'm sure you got some feelings.
I got more.
Please share them.
I got plenty more, yeah, and I want to hear it.
Anyway,
I really want to,
thank you very much for watching. If you liked it, please hit the like button. That would be great. If you want to, well, we got lots more videos where this came from. Subscribe, and you'll get all that. Lots of nerdy commentary on a great many things. And of course, tons and tons of podcasts, from talk shows to music shows to audio dramas at nerdyshow.com.
And I promise it's not all me ranting about things I don't like. In fact, it's me praising.
This video is weirdly typical of the internet.
Yeah,
which is not normally our MO.
Yeah. Well, it's only because it's so fresh in our minds because we just saw it.
Yeah, that was the point. Anyway, thank you for watching. Bye, I'm Cap.
Bye, I'm Doug.
Oh, hey there. Be sure to subscribe because we've got lots more Nerdy Show content coming at you real soon.